going on, everybody? Welcome back to Candid Couch Conversations. My name is AJ,
My name is Tahj.
and today we are talking about family ties, navigating love, acceptance, and boundaries as a trans person.
Today, there's a third person on the screen, and that is my mom. Say hi, mom. Say
Yay.
hi to the people.
Hi. Hi,
Hi,
people.
hi, people.
So
Yeah.
quick, let's find out, Taj, how's your week going so far?
It's going great. Um, you know, I had a a great week. Let's put it that way. Um, Work is work, school is school, and I'm pushing forward.
Cool beans. I'm doing the same, bro. School is school, work is work. I'm pushing forward. Yeah, you just said it. That's it. Miss Shanna, how's your week going?
Um, my week is my week. Doing the usual running with everybody, trying to get people to work, getting grandbabies off to school, and
Great.
trying to keep up with work myself.
All right, so if you all tuned in last month, my brother Taj told you all that there was something that we hadn't told you all in the beginning, and that was that we are both transgender men. So this week, we are going to ask Taj to briefly share his experience about his coming out as a trans man.
Yeah, so I was living in San Diego at the time. I had moved from Virginia all the way to San Diego for reasons that we will not give honor to during this episode. But nonetheless, while I was in San Diego, we actually rewind when I was younger, I always felt like this disconnect, and like this weird sense of like not belonging in a way. And I didn't really know what that was attributed to. I've always been more of like the tomboy type of person. Like always like literally remember the day that I cried shopping in the girls section because I did not want any of that stuff. I always wanted to shop in the boys section. Um, and then fast forward to being in San Diego, I had like this new sense of self, this new sense of independence, and did a lot of this digging as to like who I felt like I was authentically. And that led to me accepting me as transgender. So I took it upon myself because I was grown and I went to where'd I go? Planned Parenthood, where they do like informed, I think it's called informed consent or something along those lines, where they just tell you about the what to expect going on hormone therapy, the pros, the cons, and the I don't knows. All of those things, like how you can experience like male pattern baldness and like your emotions could be all over the place, and then the obvious things like facial hair, voice deepening, and some other items. And I said, okay, yeah, sign me up. And about a week or two after that, I took my first shot, and about a week after that is when I called my mom because in that moment it was like I'm doing these things for myself, but also not really. I don't think it really hit me that, hey, physically you're going to change. And you can't, it's not something that you could just keep doing and then keep hiding, right? Nor did I want to hide it, really. I wanted to be able to express myself and be myself and show up as my authentic self. So I called my mom, and it was like I said, like a week or two after I did my first shot. And I was like, hey, I have something to tell you. And I think at this point, I have been calling her with surprises for for a good little minute being in San Diego. Because I think at one point I was like, I'm moving back home. And then and then the next week I was like, no, I'm not. So there was just a lot of back and forth happening. So I called her and I said, hey, it's something I want to tell you. And she said, what? And I said, um, I'm transitioning. And immediately there was like this quiet period. And then she goes, no, you're
You're
not.
lying.
She was like, no, no, you're not. And I said, yes, I am. And she was like, you're lying. No, you're playing. No, you're lying. And I'm like, no, I'm for real. I did my first shot like a week or two ago. And she was like, no, like, no, because I do play, like I play a lot. I joke a lot. But in that moment, I was like very serious. And I think there was this level of, is she not accepting me, or does she think I'm for real playing? And I leaned more towards a, oh, she's probably not accepting me. And naturally, this was before therapy. I was very like, okay, I'm just gonna keep this to myself. And being in San Diego, I would travel back home periodically. And I think the first time I came home was sometime in the summertime. And I had did my first shot in like February. So by the summertime, my voice was a little bit deeper, not where it is now, but a little bit deeper. And I had like 2 to 3 chin hairs that had sprouted out of my face. So to go home, because I've convinced myself that she's not for this, like she's not going for it, I would try to mask myself going home. So I would like shave the 3 little chin hairs. I would try to not like speak with my voice being a little bit more elevated. And then I went home for Thanksgiving, did the same thing. And then by this point, I was in therapy and I was talking with my therapist, and I was like, I don't think they really accept this. And she challenged me with the question of, well, when have y'all talked about it? I said when I first came out, and I said the reaction. And she says, but you haven't talked about it since then? I said, well, no, because I already feel like I got shut down, so I'm just gonna, continue operating in this shut down space. Um, but she said, no, you need to have a conversation with them, and get it off your chest. Because again, I felt like I was living 2 separate lives. Like I would be in San Diego, living as Tahj, and then I would go home and not be not be Tahj to for sake of conversation. So I ended up having a conversation with my mom and my grandmother, because they've been like they were my parents for real, for real. I mean, my mom's my mom, obviously, and then my grandmother is my grandmother. But I was really close with them, and they're really like all I knew as far as like parental figures growing up. So I had a call with both of them, and I was just like, I've transitioned. I've been transitioning. At this point, I think it was like a little over a year. Um, my name is Tahj. My preferred pronouns are he, him. And I think even in that moment, I'm not going to speak for her. We're going to let her speak. But I think in that moment, there was still like a level of, what is this? like what is happening? I know you as this person. I gave birth to this person, and now you're telling me you're not that person. And so like it was like this whole, it took some time to get used to. Um, and we've evolved to now where she can be on this call on this call with us. So that's great.
So, Miss Shanna, what were your thoughts when Taj first came out, and that year later when he came to have a conversation about him coming out?
So, as was mentioned again, when it was first told to me, it was the thought of, oh, he's just joking, you know, and it wasn't a thing of not accepting it per se. It was just the way that it was said to me was, no, he's just joking. He's just joking. And so that was the reaction that I had at that time. I already knew that he preferred um, women already because of the situation that had occurred as far as him leaving Virginia and moving on. So I already knew that there was a preference there. I already knew, even being younger, that there was an issue as far as, liking males versus liking females. And I already saw um, the quote unquote tomboyishness. But at first, as I had mentioned to Tahj, my thing was I thought that part of it that led to that was things that had happened when Tahj was a little younger. Some of those same things. that happened to me, but I just didn't react the same way. So I thought that that's what it was attributed to. And when we had this meeting, of course, that's when I was told, no, that wasn't the case. That's just how it was. Um, but then, of course, um, like he was saying, he had already started the process, and then there were things that were posted, I guess, on social media in a sense, but kind of hidden from me. And then I would hear it from my other children. Oh, Tahj went and had this procedure done and had that procedure done. And it was like, you didn't see it. And I'm like, no. So I assumed that he didn't want me to know.
I didn't know
But
they was snitching.
oh, yeah, they were snitching. Oh, yeah, they were snitching.
Oh, your siblings ate
Um,
your siblings.
but I mean, my thing was that was his choice to do that. I mean, at the same time, again, like he was saying, it was just a matter of, still thinking about, okay, every time you think back on from the beginning to this point, it's like, okay, you know, these are the children that I had. And when I, like named my child, it was the significance behind that name, so on and so forth. And now that name is gone, you know. So when I named my child, there was a tie in the sense to me and my name. And now that name is gone. It's not there anymore. And of course, again, the person that I raised at that time, well, now it's a different person. Um, same person in one sense, but different in another. So you know, it takes time to get used to, and it's still taking some time to get used to. I understand the change to the pronouns, and I respect that. It's just, when you go through 18 or more years knowing that person like this, and then, now it's a change, and you're the parent, it's just hard to just flip it immediately. So it's still a change, and it's not a matter of disrespect or anything like that. It's just you're used to one thing, and you have to kind of get out of that practice, um, to change over to what that person is expecting, or prefers.
Yeah.
Um, so by no means was there any love lost, or was there any reason for me to be upset. When my kids become grown, their choices are their choices. And as long as they can take care of themselves, and I'm there to help if I can. But again, their choices are their choices. I've done what I was supposed to do. And so, therefore, I don't love my child any less. Um, that's still my child.
Right,
Period.
right.
I'll say this. I think one part of transitioning for me, like I never told you, but it was really hard for me to change, like be okay with changing my name because I knew the significance behind it. So my some people call it dead name. That's their choice. I don't like to call it that. I just say my previous name. So before, my first name was a combination of my mom's first and middle name put together. And because I knew that and I was very close, like, and still am very close with her, and just like I know all of these things. And then my middle name, that could, I know where that came from too, but that could go back to the West Coast where it came from. But that part, it wasn't that big of a deal. But the first name was very just like, what am I gonna do? And I think also I felt like that was gonna break her too because of the significance behind it. And I'm like, I don't want her to feel like I'm just trying to throw all of that away. But I also got to the point where just like I have to live for me, similar to what she was saying. Like they raised us to know that one, we're different, and this was a part of our whole conversation that we had on that one call. But as people, just as people, we are all different, and that's also part of the reason why we even wanted to start this podcast to show that we all come from different places, but there are similarities, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to live authentically, and you just gotta living your truth. Really, is what it is. So I had to come to terms with that within myself and say, this is the path that I'm about to walk down. And hey, I could get real biblical real quick. But like it's just like, change happens and change looks different for different people. Like she said, we went through similar experiences. It didn't send her down this path. And that experience had really no effect on who I am. Not going to say no effect, but it just, as far as transitioning, it that was already a thought in my mind before any of that happened. Um, there was times where I was like, when I started going to school and I realized cognitively, I was like, oh, there's a difference between girls and boys. I feel like I fit more over here than I fit over here. And like just hearing like some of my male friends just talking about things, it was like, oh, I can connect there. And then being in conversations with girls, I'm like, ugh, what are y'all talking about? Like, it's just like those little things. Like, even when we were younger, I think I have a little brother that's not so little, but he's my little brother, and he would get different outfits and things, and I would be like, I want to wear that. I don't want to wear, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to wear the dresses. I want to wear that. I want to wear a suit for Easter. I want to, all of those things. So yeah, that was long, but
Well, well spoken, sir.
we'll
Well
figure it out.
spoken. Well spoken. Well spoken. All right, Miss Shanna, what helped you grow in your understanding of trans identity?
Um, I mean, I would just have to say, you know, I guess dealing with my own, um,
Like
dealing with
identity?
dealing with my own, like you.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Not
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
But I was you didn't let
I
me
was like,
finish the statement.
what you trying to
I
say?
was like dealing with my own child.
Okay.
Um, and then, some every once in a while, um, I'm online and, just hearing some of the things that some people are talking about. And it can just be everyday things. And some of these people are transgender or they're just from the LGBTQ plus community. And sometimes some of the things that they say, it was one person that was on there speaking, and he was it's something that he said that just really kind of hit me hard. And it was just about, just the overall respect of other people. And um, it basically had to do with, whatever that person decides to do, that is up to them. Um, and it's not my place to judge them on that. Just because I didn't make that choice. Um, that's me. Um, and it doesn't change the person within, you know, it doesn't change who they are. My concern too for a lot of them, I'm concerned for all of y'all safety, especially with the way that people are out here talking a lot of times. Especially with a lot of things that they're trying to away as far as programming and things like that. Um, because my thing is, how can you force somebody to be something that they're not feeling? Just like Tahj was saying, I was feeling this one way. Um, I'm looking like this, but I'm feeling this one way. And what would happen if the ability was not there for you to make those changes at that time? And they're talking about the counseling is not there, and you have all of these kids in school at the time that you went to school. Um, you couldn't necessarily, it wasn't a thing to come out in school like that. Now, the kids are more, doing so in school and like that, and they're trying to take that away from them. That's like the taking religion out of school and, taking Black history out of school and, things like that. But just to help me grow in my understanding, again, a lot of times it's, listening to things like you all talk or listening to somebody who's actually dealing with it, talk about it. Um, and um, just, that helps me. And like I said, just having a child that is a transgender and hearing some of the issues and just being able to talk one on one.
Hmm.
Let's talk about unlearning and relearning things. So I grew up very Christian, like like the Christian that goes to church. No, we didn't go on Mondays. Ha, that was our day off. But we were there on Tuesday. We were there on Wednesday. We were there sometimes on Thursday for church conference. We was there on Friday for like youth retreats, or not youth retreats, but like the lock-ins and youth activities. Then we were there on Saturday because we had choir rehearsal, and then some people had praise dance after. And then also there may have been something else going on. And then we had Sundays back in the day when there was three services. Did we have three? We had two. We
You
had
would
two.
have three. You would sometimes have three if
Sometimes
you went
have
to
three.
another church.
Yes, on the van
Hmm.
or on the bus when they got the minibus. That's another conversation for another day. But yes, very Christian. Every morning before school, my grandmother would wake us up, and or we get dropped off sometimes when we finally like left, we get dropped off for school in the morning, and she would have us doing what was it called, devotion,
Hmm.
morning
The
devotion
daily bread.
every morning. And she's a minister, so yeah. And so there was a lot of internal conflict that I had for a very, very long time because I was raised that God made man and woman, and the man and the woman should be together. And when the man and the woman come together, then they need to be what? Fruitful and multiply. What does that mean? Have babies. And then and then you raise these kids. And then you know what I'm saying? Like you serve God and all of those things. And that was a very traditional, I feel, mindset. Um, but it did cause a lot of conflict because for a long time, and even sometimes now, I feel like the question pops up in my mind like, is what I'm doing right? Is what like, am I living my life in the right way? Am I really not supposed to not supposed to be doing this? Is God not pleased? Like all of these questions come up for me, and I'll say I've through this whole journey, I have not ever said I'm gonna turn my back to Christianity. Like that's just my personal like Christianity is still the cornerstone, and like for me, like the center of everything that I do. And I think saying that and like remembering that, I had to go back and kind of deconstruct and reconstruct what Christianity was for me personally. Because another thing that I was always taught is it's not about going to church on all three services or always participating in church or physically being in service all the time. It's about your relationship, and everybody's relationship is different. Um, God shows up for me in ways that he might not show up for you. You get what I'm saying? Like, or you might not believe in God at all. And that's your choice. Like, but for me, I do. And so I had to remember and constantly remind myself that it's not necessarily, it's about the relationship. So me and God's relationship, I'm constantly, I feel affirmed by God all the time that you're okay. Like it's okay. In those moments where I have the thoughts of like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Something happens, or I just like feel like, no, I feel like this sense of peace, like you're right where you're supposed to be. And So I had to, like I said, redefine Christianity for me, um, and not necessarily continuously go off of what I was taught traditionally, if that makes sense. Um,
Well,
culture. Oh, what were you gonna say?
I'm sorry. I don't I don't think that um I won't say that anybody would say that it was beat into you to say, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong, you can never go back or anything like that.
Hmm.
Um, because we number one, we serve a forgiving God. And if that were the case, then Lord knows I would be up under like 10 feet, 20 feet up under. Um
Only six legally, but I'm just kidding.
um no, and I'm saying that because of the fact that I am, I'm the fruit that fell off the tree and multiplied. You see what I'm saying? Because of course I had all of my kids and I wasn't married. And
Hmm.
that was the rule that was in the book.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? But it just didn't happen that way. And my thing is, if that was the way that it was quote unquote intended to be, then God would have had it happen that way.
Hmm.
And if he wasn't a forgiving God, then I wouldn't be where I am either.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So, and if he's not going to forgive and hold it, he's not one that forgives and holds it against us.
Hmm.
And it says in the word to forgive 70 times seven, and I'm sure it's more than that. And it says that God is love.
Hmm.
And so, regardless of who you are, what you've done, all of that, we are still to love one another.
Hmm.
So just because someone has taken that route, that doesn't mean stop loving them.
Hmm.
Because and that's the problem with today is so many people, they're so judgmental and they look at what somebody has done, and they want to judge what they've done, not looking at everything that they've done, because nobody in this world is perfect.
Hmm.
And they're quick to judge and they want to call themselves Christians and things like that, but as soon as something happens that they consider off the grid, they're judging them and the love goes out the window. But yet I'm a Christian. They're putting these people out of church
Hmm.
in a sense. And so that's why a lot of people are questioning the Christianity now.
Hmm.
They're questioning that faith now
Hmm.
because they're seeing more hate and everything like that. So, yes, that was the decision you made. Yes, that's, you're comfortable with that decision. And right or wrong, if it wasn't what you quote unquote should have done, you know, God has forgiven you. You've had your conversation with God.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? You and God have dealt with that.
Yeah.
And so, okay, your guilt and everything is gone, and it should be.
Hmm.
So yes, move forward.
Um, so the one thing that I know is that when it comes to faith and you look at God, we are made in the image and likeness of God. I took Westminster Catechism and it was like 123 questions and answers. And my favorite question was number 4. And it said, "What is God?" It didn't say who is God. It said, "What is God?" Because you have to realize that we as humans are stupid. So we cannot fathom all of God. So, in order for us to understand what God is, God has to become a who for us so that we can have a sense of tangible touch to have a father, to have a mother, to have a sister, because that's how it is for us. But the question specifically said, "What is God?" And the answer is God is a spirit. That is what God is. So if we're made in God's image and likeness, we are spirits. God doesn't care what the shell looks like. He cares about your spirit. What is your spirit doing? Is your spirit being kind? Is it showing unconditional love? Is it being compassionate? Is it helping the poor and the widow and the people who can't seem to help themselves? That is what God is concerned about. God doesn't care what surgeries I may or may not have because I'm trans. Like, what? Really? If that's the case, then don't get hair plugs. Don't get your hair done. Stop with the BBLs. God does not care about that. And
That's killing them. Them
exactly.
BBLs are killing them.
Exactly. But
Slowly.
yet, for a trans person, and the thing about those BBLs and everything else, and having the Botox in the face or whatever, it's because they feel one way about their appearance, and they want to look how they feel inside that they know they should. If they're doing that so that they can feel better about themselves, why is it such a big deal when transgender people do the same thing? That's what I don't understand. And getting back with talking about how God feels or how God sees us, we're still spirits. That's how God sees us. That's how God sees everyone. When God created man, God didn't create man and say man and then created woman and say woman. No. God said ish. And then when he created the other one, he said ish. Ish means man. Both of them were named man. And he did not name them because that was not God's job. He gave Adam the job to name all of creation. So Adam named her Eve. God named both of them man. So that's how God sees us. So when it comes to Christianity, and I use quotes for that because God never called God's people Christians. He called us sons. Now we the sons of God, and it does not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when we see him, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. We are the sons of God because sons get the birthright. We're heirs of the Father and joint heirs with the Son. Only sons are heirs. So when people ask me what my faith is, I say I'm a son of God. And the one thing I do know for a fact is that God does not make mistakes. Now, by me saying that, most people will be like, but because you're trans, aren't you saying that God made a mistake? That's the opposite. I am trans because God doesn't make mistakes. He gives you challenges, not mistakes. Kind of like he challenged Moses, he challenged Aaron, he challenged Abraham, he challenged David, and it was up to them to accept the challenge. My challenge was as a transgender man. Now, I will say that I knew I was different from the age of 9, but I was born in the 70s. We didn't have the same kind of talk the way it is now.
Both
So
y'all
I couldn't
was.
say that I was transgender. I knew I was different. And it took me literally 41 years, 41 years to transition into who I am now because I didn't accept the challenge. And the challenge was be who you are and not who people think you should be just to please them. Because I was miserable for 41 years. I was miserable. But I was living, and I was living for everyone else, which basically is existing. But when I accepted the challenge, once I understood that I was transgender, because I was identifying as everything else but transgender. And when you identify as something that you're not, then your life is literally a living hell. Because it's kind of like working in a ministry that you know God never put you in. Kind of like Saul. In that what Saul did, you know,
Mm,
right? Like Saul was a king, but he was trying to be a priest, and God told him that is not where you belong. That's not what you do. So why am I trying to be this person when I know who I am and I know that I'm more comfortable being this person? So it was just a challenge.
mm,
That's all it was. And I finally accepted the challenge. And because of that, it's funny how in the LGBTQ community, we are drawn closer to God because it's like there's a almost like more of a camaraderie. Because I mean, little do people know, if God is a spirit, that means God is neither male nor female, which kind of makes God non-binary. Because
mm.
you need God to be whomever God needs to be for you in the moment you need God. So if you need a healer, then you need God to be Jehovah Rapha. If you need God to be your righteousness, then you need Jehovah Sitkanu. If you need provision, you need God to provide for you. You need God to be your Jehovah Jireh. So those names have no gender attached to them. We're stupid, like I said before. So we need to physically bond to something, which is gender. So we say God is our father. That doesn't make it incorrect. God is your father when you need God to be your father, but God can also be my mother.
It's who you are and whose you are. Always know those two things. Know who
Mm-hmm.
you are and whose you are. This has been a very lucrative, informative conversation.
Yes,
So
it
I think
has.
this is a good place to pause, and we can pick up for a part two. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Candid Couch Conversations. Please do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell. We'll come back with another video next month, June 10th. Again, if you have any questions, hit us up in the comments. You can go to our Instagram page at Candid Couch Combos. You can hit us up there and we will most certainly answer any question that you have. Or you can email us. What's our email?
C3 at alpha omega kappa.org.
Yes. So if you have any questions and you want to hit us up by email, that is the email that you use, and we will answer your questions most assuredly. So thank you again for joining us on the couch. Until next time, be good, love each other, love yourself. We out.